This week in Missouri politics, midweek update. Tuesday, I told you yesterday we're going all week, every day. Today we're joined by Representative Jamie Berger, two Boot Hill Germans. Jamie, I got you a very special German Stein
All right,
right
all
there.
right.
I'm going in thanks to my buddy Jim Murphy. Don't say a South County Irishman ever gave you anything. We're posted up here with my Stein of knowledge. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to have a visit before they go into session. Representative, we were talking before he came on. What a productive year. If you left right now, boy, you have to feel good about all the stuff you got done.
I think we have a lot of things accomplished, and there's more to come this week.
Yeah.
We're still working hard. I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday be jam-packed full. Getting the budget done last Friday and kind of getting that put to bed gives us the opportunity.
Ooh, jam-packed full. That's a little scary, right?
Well, it is a little bit scary. Things are coming back and forth and out of conference committee, so the place is very fluid right now.
Let's just say the Senate quit functioning right now. The things that you have in the House you could TAFP and you've already passed. You're going to rebuild I-70, the largest public works project in the history of the state. You've got an IP deal done, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, even if you took the deal the Senate sent over, I mean, that's a substantial change to the IP laws.
Without a doubt, and I think gives the Missourians a sense of confidence. The I-70 corridor project, I think, is a good thing for Missouri. It frees up $90 million that they spend on repairs every year. MoDOT has to go out across the state. Also in there's $100 million again to fix lettered roads in our counties, which are our farm to market roads and also our school bus routes. I think that's a great thing that the Cody Smith and Lincoln Huff and the governor have put in there for our local communities. And
somewhere Dan Hageman's smiling, ain't he?
Oh, exactly. And we need those roads fixed, and that's vital for us.
Tell you, I said on television last week, you got to give a hat tip to Patrick McKenna. I mean, the fact of the matter is that him and that commission, you would have never gave this to some commissions. There are some MoDOT directors would have never. It would have been a joke to trust them with this kind of money. But MoDOT's in a good place.
MoDOT's in a good place. The thing that I keep saying, people don't mind paying taxes as much as they see improvements going on in their area. But we got to see those improvements started, and I'm ready to see dirt turning.
You talk about a bill that you had a little to do with, a trans bill. I guess you've got a Senate version over there you could pass. You got a House version working their way through. In hindsight, it seems like a small thing, but if we went and had us a beer in Benton, or we went and had lunch in East Prairie, that's what folks talk about.
That's what they do talk about, and so many people are adverse to that idea, and that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I think it's a big thing in the state of Missouri. I just don't think biological men or boys need to be playing in girls' sports, and I'm very adamant about that.
I think that is one thing that Doug Beck, who's a senator, but Doug is most common sense folks. He even said it in committee. 80% of his constituents don't think girls should be that boys should be transitioning to girls and playing in girls' sports. I would say throughout the state, that's probably 95% issue,
or even greater, possibly.
That you might be right. Even folks that don't want to see trans folks picked on would say, "Well, okay, maybe not in sports." However, the Senate version's got a whole lot more than that. It's got they can't even start any of these procedures to take these hormones until they're 18.
Right. These puberty blockers and surgeries happening at a very young age, I just don't think it's fair. I think the parents at some point in time have to realize they are parents, and when kids get to be 18 or 20 years old and they're on their own, then they can make that decision. But right now, I think if you live in my house, you abide by my rules, and that's the way you live.
What Tony Soprano told his daughter one time, out there, it's 2002. In here, it's 1950.
Right. Exactly. And that's kind of the way, I don't know if it's old school, but that's the way I feel about it. I think kids are too young at that age to have these life-changing, altering surgeries, puberty blockers, and I think we need to stay away from that till the time comes.
I've watched the Republican Party do very well electorally, playing off homophobic stereotypes, homophobic themes of campaigns. Personally, I don't find it homophobic. I find it a rational person who has a sympathetic heart towards someone going through some of these things could say, look, you need to let your body develop. And then if you want to, once you're old enough and you're fully through puberty, if you still feel this way, then it's your choice to make. I don't think it's, I hear, Democrats reflexively say, you're a bigot, you're homophobic. And I've watched it. Sometimes that is true. Oh, and this is a different issue. I think people aren't saying you can't be that way. I'm saying you can have every right every other American has, but we're going to keep you from making really big decisions until you're old enough to make them.
Right. I don't think we want to accept life altering changes to a body until you're at least 18 years old and your mind's more set on and focused as to what you want to be or where you want to be, or even 20 years old. I think 12, 13, 14, 15 is just too young.
I mean, I look at Claudia Kehoe today. She's like 29 and she's still a Cubs fan. And we're hoping that, she can get over that and get cured.
Well, growing up in New Hamburg, Missouri, the big town, Schindler's Tavern. I played a lot of softball and baseball against girls and boys, and a lot of tomboys I went to school with who are friends of mine and that are now grandmothers. And if that was today, would they have altered their body? I don't know. Sometimes I think some of those things are a trend. I think sometimes those things are a fad. I think you do it, and hey, I'm going to do it. You jump off the bridge, I'm going to jump off the bridge, and that concerns me.
Well, how many? I mean, you just break it down. How many decisions that you are dead? What's that old Garth Brooks song? Unanswered prayers. I think that how many times did you lay in bed when you're 14 and think the world's ending, or think something is this big a deal in the world and you've got to do this, you've got to do that, when in reality you look at it differently 5 years later and think, oh, good Lord, thank you for not answering my prayer.
Right. And I think if that was happening in my household, and who knows, it may one of these days, I would support that child completely. But at the same time, I would try to rationale with them that, hey, wait till you're 18 to make sure that this is what you want to do.
Now, Guzzy, if you're watching, that's not happening in your household. Let's talk about yesterday. Came in, you were efficient, right? Came in, did 3 Senate bills and left.
There's a lot of stuff still being put on the calendar. There's a lot of stuff coming out of conference committees. There's a lot of stuff coming over from the Senate. I think.
But in reality, if you're perfecting a House bill today, it's just a vanity project for whoever's bill it is, right?
Well, I think that it gives the opportunity for people to have some mic time on the floor, some debate time on the floor, maybe building a pathway for next year. Perfecting the bill, it gives you a little push to 2024. I think it gives opportunity.
With all that.
Yeah.
But if somebody sees something they desperately hate on the floor this afternoon, don't get too worked up, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. A lot of those projects, I kind of call them the test and tune. You're testing the waters to see if people support some of these things or how the pulse of the House is beating.
All right. New sponsor here, United Fiber. I'm going to tell you, folks, if you want to see how a co-op does internet right, go up to St. Joseph, go Savannah. United Fiber is if you could imagine, I've never seen anything like it. The folks absolutely love it. They'd rather have that than a private company. United has done it the right way. They've dug in, and I've anybody that brings electricity to rural Missouri first was loved, right? Co-ops. I think the co-ops are one of the most popular institutions in our state. But if you bring internet after nobody has it, I mean, they do it right. They have brought it places. Now the city, instead of the rural area begging the city folks to come out, in St. Joseph, they beg the co-op to come in. It is an absolute great way. And look at this frying pan. I keep this away from any ladies around me. You get whacked upside the head with it. That is a legit. I've been to many, many, many Ozark border annual meetings. That's a legit annual meeting giveaway.
That is a legit. That's an attitude adjuster too.
I mean, also while we're sitting here, a couple books. You want to learn about where Jamie and I are from? Southeast Missouri, from swampland to farmland. They called it Swampeast Missouri for a reason. This will take you through all the drainage districts and the history of everything, all the way through the whole Little River and everywhere else. And then one of my favorite books that's ever got about Southeast Missouri, the biography of Sam Hildebrand. You might not know Sam Hildebrand, but I'll tell you, not everybody that was a bushwhacker didn't have a reason. Sam Hildebrand tried to live in peace. Like most folks, the government wouldn't have it. He killed his brothers. So Sam Hildebrand got him a gun called Kill Devil and put about 80-some notches in it, which is just goes to show you, if you're from Southeast Missouri like Jamie and I, we know how to hold a grudge.
Exactly. Exactly.
Speaking of, lots of speculation. It seems like Senator Rader is very much nearing a run for lieutenant governor. That is your senator. Many folks thought you'd be the leading candidate to replace her. Many folks think you'd be a leading candidate to run for floor leader. What are you planning to do next year?
I haven't had a conversation with Senator Rader about what her intentions are at all. I just don't think I should bug her about that or ask that. I think when the time comes, she will make that announcement, and whatever that announcement is, it's her decision. I'm all in on running for majority floor leader. I don't think the Senate is a good fit for me. I think I have a pathway to be majority floor leader after spending this session working with Dr. Patterson and Speaker Plocker and sitting at the leadership table. That's something that I want to try to do for myself, get there. I think we need a common sense approach, and I think I can bring that to the floor.
It is it feels like knowing John Patterson, knowing you, there's a real interesting fit between the two of you. You go from one of you a city person, one of you, I mean, don't get much more rule than Jamie Berger.
Right.
One of them, this is their first government office. You've got experience in government. Your ages are different. Your probably support from the caucus is deeper in different wells of the caucus. It does seem like there's a real logical fit between you and Dr. Patterson.
Well, and he's from the Northwest, and I'm from the Southeast,
Mhm.
which is different geographical areas. When I started my work career, I started as a salesman for an International Harvester dealership and got to be the store manager eventually, and started as a labor person at a cement plant and ended up being one of the managers. I feel like being a majority floor leader, you need to start as assistant majority floor leader. I always think that's some kind of a training program, and I don't think it's a bad idea. Being part of that and seeing how he's working the calendar and kind of learning from him has been a plus for me.
Well, it's true. I mean, you work together every day. Your
Every
offices
day.
are right by each other.
Right.
Um, it does feel like there's an interesting fit between the two of you. It feels like a lot of your differences add up. I always thought the worst combination is you get a floor leader and a speaker that have too many things in common, because really you end up just kind of servicing one group of people, and that usually that the house is made to be ran by the leadership. But boy, that leadership, if it's two on the same page, your average member does not have a good year.
Well, I think too, and just kind of what you said, you need to have people looking out for the urban interest. You need to have people looking out for the rural interest, and I think we've kind of developed that this year.
This year's been a success. However you want to calculate
it has been a success, and Speaker Plocker has done a good job of leading the charge. Very good job. He had several ideas that he brought forth in front of the caucus, and we kind of all in agreement and backed him 100%. Naturally, there's always going to be some people that don't. There's always rumblings when you get that many people involved. But I think the proof is in the pudding. I think the proof is in what you read earlier, what all we passed this year, and I think we've had a successful year.
Well, talk about rural people sticking up for themselves. Sitting here and talked to Brad Pollitt yesterday. It seems like the Senate was planning to get to all the city folks. It's kind of funny if you can imagine all whole ridge full of city people in their Priuses, drinking their Starbucks, wearing their little skinny pants, listening to John Tesh or whatever city people listen to radio, all lined up on the ridge. And then you got Carl Esslinger, Lane Gannon, we hope Jason Bean, Justin Brown, Lincoln Huff, all kind of down, Burns Getter, now Hoskins and Moon, all down there watching all the city folks buzz around. They're just licking their chops to close East Prairie, ain't they? Boy, they'd love to close East Prairie, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and I've just never been an advocate for school choice. I just haven't been.
Well, you got choice, right? You can move to East Prairie. You can move to Charleston. You can move to Blodgett. You can move to Portersville. You can move to Kennett. I don't know these city people. They need a map or something. Maybe they need like a U-Haul flyer. You move anywhere you want to move. And now, here's the thing. There's two things about this debate that just have always puzzled me. Number one, if a little kid's sick, right? What is the Republican response? Have your daddy work harder, get a job, make more money, buy you insurance, right? Which is fine. That's the Republican move. They don't think you need Medicaid. Fine. I think that's a very logical argument. However, if it's a school, if it's a charter school, well, then no, we got to pay for that. I'm like, so the kid could, die of lung cancer, but if it's a school, no, he's got to go to a woke charter school. And number two, look, in our neck of the woods, there's the Richland Rebels, right?
Richland Rebels, yes.
Their mascot is exactly what you're thinking it is, and they ain't planning on changing it.
No.
And I hear that the Richland Rebels are really woke, super woke, crazily woke, right? But then I see Citizens of the World Charter School, and these same Republicans tell me, oh no, they're conservative. I see KIPP Charter School, sponsored by WashU, the very people that run the transgender center that they've thrown a big fit about for a year.
Right.
Oh no, that's not woke. Snipping off little boys' penises is not woke. Yeah. But the Putman midgets. This is the mascot of the Putman County midgets. It is a midget. It says "Let's go midgets" on the koozie. But somehow they're woke. I've just never understood that. It's almost like you're only offended unless you're getting money for your campaign. Then you're not offended anymore.
Then you're not offended. You know, and the one thing I look at too, if you're in a certain school district and you want to go to the neighboring school district in Southeast Missouri, you can get an educational scholarship, and everybody has families living in Southeast Missouri in the next county, in the
Yeah,
next
I
school
know.
district. They really do.
Yeah.
So if you want your child to go to that school, you can actually do that today. Or you have the ability to pay the tuition if you want to, or you have the ability to buy, move, or whatever it may be inside that. I just think that, you know, I'm a proud Kelly Hawk. You know what I mean? And that's where my daughters went. Me and my wife met.
Good girls basketball there, don't they?
Forever,
Yeah.
and softball,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
softball. And we got a good baseball team this year, so it's very exciting times. I just don't think that should be a priority. And
I went to school with Neelyville. I was a class president of about 65
Right.
Neelyville Tigers. I know 5 of them did not live in Neelyville School District. And everybody's kind of fine with it. I mean,
Exactly.
we were happy to get them out of Poplar Bluff. See, that's where Brad and I, Brad was first telling about this, probably 4 or 5 years ago. He was like, "Well, a lot of people are gonna come to the bigger schools for the programs." I actually don't think so. I think what you're going to see is people coming to that are in the big districts coming to the small ones.
I think so too. I think people end up at the lower end, the Kellys, the
Yeah.
East Prairies. I think they move away from the Cape Centrals, from the Nevada County Centrals, and go to the smaller schools. I think, you know, I graduated with 55, 60 kids, kind of like you did. And I kind of knew all those. And we had people there, not from our district too, that wanted to go to school at Kelly.
I think you break it. I think there's 3 pots of people in the legislature on the school issue. Now, I think there's been a lot of reform. Everybody likes the reform, right? But I think you break it down in number 1. If you're from a district that has a sense of community, you're generally for your school. And I believe you should be. I like school choice. Choose to move anywhere you want to move.
Right, exactly.
Or you pay tuition, go Catholic school.
Or pay tuition.
That's what you want to do. I mean, you can choose what you want to choose.
Right.
Now you may have to get an extra job, but isn't that the Republican way?
Exactly.
You're supposed to work a little hard for things you want
and pay your way.
So number 1, there's people that have a sense of community. Those are Democrats. Those are Republicans. There's people that have no sense of community. They just live in a suburb and one cul-de-sac's into the next one. It's just kind of like a zombie mob of vinyl siding people, just weirdos, Starbucks, and they're for screwing up schools. And again, some of these people, I can't blame them. I mean, you know, it's a blizzard in July in St. Charles for all the snowflakes. I mean, if you represent them, they're constantly whining about something 24/7. It's got to be tough. So I do get it that you don't have any sense of community. You don't care if the school's in Noel closed because it's not your problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whatever. Francis Howell will still be there. You'll be fine. Then I have a third person that, you know, there's 2. The third person I think kind of goes from they get a lot of campaign donations, which I don't think totally influences anybody, but it influences people. Then you get the folks that are real theoretical, right? Your Republicans that have never made a payroll that want to tell you how to grow jobs, right?
Right.
Those are the 3 groups I see. And then the Senate, you've got a whole range. And it's fair to say, you do have a few rural folks that have turned on their own people. I mean, I think if Curtis Finn shows up in Dade County, he's going to get his head thumped right now. But, again, he's not really from there. But I did think in the Senate, you got Carl Essinger's going to dig in. Jason B's going to have to show up. And there's Lincoln Huff's going to have to say no.
And I think they will. You know, the one thing I always kind of think about school choice too is our 2 oldest daughters went to Kelly High School.
Yep.
Our youngest daughter went to Notre Dame Regional Catholic High School in Cape Girardeau, which we paid that tuition, but we still paid our taxes. But I kind of felt like that was our school choice. But we stepped up to the plate. For her, it was a little bit different situation, and she went there. So, and I was okay with that, and still okay with paying my local taxes.
I've always just found the snowflakes. It's so odd. All the things they're offended about, which, let's be honest, there's an ocean of things that hurt their feelings. The one thing they can seem to walk off, if it's a charter school, it doesn't matter. Right, whatever it is fine. It doesn't matter. The regular schools have about 18% struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. But if it's a charter school, 47% are struggling. Well, that's fine. That's totally fine.
And how many have closed too? You know, on top of that, you know,
not enough.
Not enough.
But I'd say here's the thing. I think Brad Pollitt's got a good idea. I don't see the problem. I mean, like you said, right now it happens anyway.
It happens anyway.
The school's just sort of. But again, when you have a community where you know folks, you know the Puxico superintendent might talk to the Bernie one and say, "Listen, I know he stays with his grandma's son. Just go ahead,
right.
Or later we'll take one." But those are rural folks that can get along with each other, right? I don't think you need a law for that. But Brad's idea, I really think it comes down to this. I don't think it hurts anything for a school to take on a few students. I don't really think you need a law for it. I think where the only time it matters if one of them's a good quarterback, right, or a good point guard. But it seems to me to make some sense to codify that if you want to. It doesn't hurt much. The only problem, I think, is once you give the city people that, it isn't like they're going to shake hands and be like, okay, we're good for a while. Let's see how this works. They'll be right back.
All it does is open the door. And once you open the door, you can never close it. I look at our small communities, some of our smaller schools, Oran, Scott Central, Puxico, East Prairie, Charleston. Those are the face of those towns.
Yep.
Those are what those towns have. Kelly High School has Benton, Missouri. When I look at those things, if we close those schools, I don't know what happens to the towns. I think you lose your distinction. I think you lose your face and your rivalry. I have a lot of friends in Oran, and we can't wait to play Kelly to play Oran. It's a fun game and have bragging rights for the next year. And it goes back and forth every year, so it's pretty exciting.
I've told Mike Carter this, who's up early with us this morning, the judge in Winsfield, law and order man out there. I've never seen a prom queen or a high school quarterback that's for charter schools. Exactly. I never have in my life.
Exactly.
I tell Mary Elizabeth all the time, she was 8 votes away from being for public education, but she came up short 8 votes in her prom queen, and now she hates schools, of course. It's just the most predictable thing. I met a guy running for Senate, and I was like, and I could tell he's being real coy about things because he might have known. And he was on the school board. I was like, oh, well, good. The schools have a friend. He's like, yeah. And then I told him that story. He goes, well, that's true. And it is true. No one, you cannot show me a prom queen or a high school quarterback that's for charter schools ever.
Exactly.
So what do you think ends up happening? I'll give you mine, then you give me yours. I think you all had to work very hard to get a bill out of the House. It was not easy. I think Brad pretty much did this so that people that are for education could say, that's okay, this is what we're for. Because it is true. School people say we're against. There's not a lot there for. I think the Senate loads it up with every squirrely idea in St. Charles County. I seen the Senate tried to hoodoo. It's so funny. Caleb Browd is one of the most sensible people you'll ever meet.
For sure.
If you really think about the type of temperament and judgment you want in the person making decisions for the state of Missouri on a public level, Caleb Browd is it. But if you bring up schools, he becomes Bill Ivey like that. It's just so funny. Whatever Columbia did to that poor guy, I don't know what it was, but if I know Caleb, it had to be bad for him to be this, for him to hate these schools this bad. It had to be something awful. Almost had to be to a kid or something too, because I don't think Caleb be that. But I mean, he hates that school in Columbia. And if I had to guess from what I've read, I said they loaded up with all the screwiest things they can find. And I don't know if it makes it out of the Senate or not. I tell you, Jill Carter, I'm gonna tell you. You talk about Missouri needing an ally. She's really came out and been a hard ally. She takes up. Well, I tell you, those kids at Kelly High School, they may owe Jill Carter before this is over with.
Well, and the way I kind of look at it too, I think it got 85 votes when it come out of the House, with the way it come out of the House. And the Senate put a lot of charter stuff on there and all other stuff loading up. I think it has a hard time passing the House. I really do.
What you'd hope. I mean, what you'd hope though. I mean, Denny Hoskins, he told a public group, he goes, you know what? I wouldn't send my kid to a charter school ran by WashU. So hopefully he doesn't want to send your kid to one.
Exactly.
Mike Moon, I got the sense Mike Moon was not in a real agreeable mood yesterday. He is 180. I mean, here's the thing about people understand about Mike Moon. Yes, Mike Moon has views that you're going to think is a little odd sometimes. You just are. I mean, that's your average Missourian, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Mike's views will be a little aggressive for you at times. But the difference between Mike Moon and a lot of people is he means it. It is not a game. It is not something it's not a joke. He doesn't get in the back room and say, look how
he's passionate.
He means it. Yeah. And I have a lot of time for you if you actually mean this stuff, whatever your views are. I don't think Mike Moon is up for sending more people to these charter schools. We'll see. You hope that, when rural Missouri picks teams, Lincoln Huff's he's a rural Missouri guy. Mm-hmm. Carla, Jason, Elaine, your senator, obviously not that great on this. I think Mike Bernstein could absolutely be someone that cares about rural folks. I don't know, but maybe. There is a crew of people that actually care. Rusty Black's former FFA teacher.
Right.
I have a hard time thinking he wants to go in there and close school. And he wants to close Grant City schools.
Right. Exactly.
And I'll tell you what, this is what'll happen. The old hillbilly pal here. Take me a pull out of my stone knowledge. If you let these people these charter school people from out of state, right? If you let them in, they'll wreck that formula, and you will never, ever, ever, ever get them out of it. and at some point they'll just cut the rural folks out.
I think it's the demise of rural schools. I always kind of call it the rural school closure plan.
Yep.
I really sincerely believe that. I think it's something we should just leave alone. Barely passed the House. It comes back from the Senate loaded up. I don't think it passes the House.
I think very highly of Senator Rader, but I'll tell you, if Portageville closes, and I'll be the one that say, well, you voted, who voted for it.
Right.
That's just a fact of the matter. I think Justin Brown cares about rural Missouri. I watch these Republicans. This is the sad thing about rural Republicans. Why are we in the spot we're in? And this is just, we do this all the time. The suburban people, whine, want it now. This is offending me. I need attention. Give me attention. Well, we then go, well, if you need 8, I guess we can give you 4 and we'll be all right with it. And what the suburban people do to us, if we need one thing, nope. What are you giving me?
They can't have it.
We never ask, what are you giving me?
Right.
We just say, oh, well, if you're going to cry about it, don't be so upset. If it's a suburban person, no, it's okay. We don't stick up for ourselves. And we deserve some of these things we deserve because we don't stick up for ourselves.
Well, I think we have to stay together better as a group also.
Yep.
I think we come up here with certain convictions, certain ideas that we bring back from our districts up to Jeff City, and I think we have to stay with those things. I'm not going to waffle from what I told people I was going to do, and I'm going to stay the course.
It's funny to me, Republicans are fun to talk about the supermajority. Well, there's a supermajority inside that supermajority.
Right.
And it's rural folks. And that's funny to me, this has been a more typical session than most of the my observed. There was a pretty aggressive trip through, bizarro land, but now it's coming back to pretty much like most sessions, right? And the truth of the matter is, in an average session, if you're a House member or you're running for the House, after spring break, your enemy is not the Democrats. It's really not ever the Democrats. Your enemy is not each other. Your enemy is the Senate. Right. And you need somebody to walk over to the Senate and say, now, damn it. Then there's Brian Penn saying, now, damn it, we're going to pass this, you're going to pass ours, or we're going home.
Right.
And that is a tough conversation. You have all these lobbyists and you have interest groups of very well-meaning people that have probably very good legislation. But if you ain't man enough to walk down the Senate and say, piss off, then right. I don't know. That's what you really do in House leadership, right?
Oh, exactly. And the one thing, my first 2 years in the House, I spent so much time in the Senate. I spent a lot of time learning the process in the House, but I spent a lot of time in the Senate crafting relationships because I knew it would be valuable. And that when I run for a system majority floor leader, I thought, well, if I have those relationships built, and I think that's one thing that I have to offer to our House members. I spent not as much time in legislative process this year, but as helping other members get their stuff through the Senate and through the House, making sure they knew where they could attach their bill onto a Senate bill, and just showing people how to learn the system itself through Amy and all those things we have at our disposal. I think me running for majority floor leader, I'm the type of guy that can go to the Senate and get things accomplished. I've got those relationships already. I'm pretty steadfast in what my convictions.
But the bigger question is, are you the type of boy that can go to the Senate and say, if you don't do Representative XYZ's bills, we're not doing your bills?
I think we always have to have bargaining chips and leverage, and I think I'm good at bargaining chips and leverage. I've been there, done those things. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of make my official announcement that I'm running for majority Florida leader today. I'm excited about my opportunities. I think I have a pathway. Nothing's ever easy, but I'm not immune to hard work. I'm looking forward to next summer traveling the state, walking in parades, shaking hands, and meeting new candidates and existing candidates and supporting them.
It's a big old state, ain't it?
It is a big old state. I called my wife one night last year, and I was in St. Joe, and she said, "What's north of St. Joe?" I said, "Well, there's still a lot of Missouri."
Speaking of, I'm gonna look this up here. We got Benton, Missouri. We're gonna go to Benton. Let me look at Google Maps. Benton, Missouri. Let's just go up to Judge Fisher's place in Rockport, Missouri.
How many miles is that?
Well, I'm trying to loading up here. It's harder than I thought it would be. To Rockport.
But I've made that commitment, and I'm all in. I'm going to travel the whole state hard and help people get elected and ask for their support. And also my main focus is make sure I have a re-election campaign myself.
I mean, that is 7 hours and 14 minutes, and it is 500 miles to go see Judge Fisher. if you were down in Cameron Park, if you're down at Braggadocio, you're talking over 500 miles in 8 hours to traverse this state. It is a big, big state.
Well, I can be to Nashville, Tennessee at the same time I can be to Jeff City.
Hey, I want to thank, I got a friend of mine, Chris, from down in Jefferson County, Missouri, sent me this terrific Wayne Kreitz button. Wayne Kreitz is the guy who's a farmer that there was a big national movement going on, and they locked him out of his grain bin or something, and he took none of it, got real pissed, ran for Congress in the true Southeast Missouri way because he was red-assed,
Right.
and almost won, almost beat Congressman Emerson back in the 80s, I believe 88. But thank you, Chris. I will put this here on the on my UFCW scarf. Appreciate you, and also don't forget. So every week I've been telling you, Courtyard by Marriott. Look, you want to come and meet the next floor leader, right? You want to schedule a meeting. Don't say I'll meet you at the Capitol Plaza. You're better than that. You look weak. Marriott, Courtyard by Marriott, the top hotel. If you get on there and the $20 difference in what you're doing in the other hotels, book the Courtyard. If it's not worth it, I will let you come here. I'll give you the $20, or I'll let you pick one of my buttons, and it's my gift to you. But you won't get it because you're going to come and you're going to buy me a Bud Light for being your travel agent. I've had a dozen of these. Now I don't even, people no longer buy me the Bud Light thanking me. They text me and say, hey, how do I get in the Courtyard? It's booked. It is solidly booked. So here's my point to you. Be veto session, right? Book your rooms down for veto session. Come in, listen to the roast. The next night, the night before, veto session, you book you 3 nights right now at the Courtyard by Marriott. You won't go wrong. It's where you want to be. If you sit in that lobby long enough during session, you will see every important political player in this state. So,
Right.
Pro tip, let's say you just don't take my advice fast enough. You don't book your rooms now. Stay at some other place. It's going to suck. But hang out in the Courtyard by Marriott lobby. Go eat lunch there, eat dinner there, get you a drink there. You'll still see everybody. And if they ask where you're staying, be like, well, I'm here right now. Just play it off like that. Don't tell people, oh, I'm over at the Hampton Inn. That's not great. Wrapping up here. Thank you. So running for floor leader. You're all in. Going to go see the full state.
Full state.
Big freshman class, right? Of this year.
Yes, very much so. I don't know if they're bigger than our class or not, but I'd say they're comparable, somewhere in the 30s each of us. And then probably next year there'll be 15 new people. Probably 10 seniors, and there'll be 4 or 5 people maybe run for Senate or not run again or have changes and whatever that may be.
If a Cinerator does run, who's the favorite down there?
I don't know that I know that. I know
Rick,
there's a lot.
Barry, John.
You got Voss, Hovis, Rick Francis, and there might be some other people dive into that race too. I don't know that.
It's a tough nut to crack if there's one Cape County.
Right. And if you got Voss and Hovis both from Cape County, what I mean?
Really open the door for a Rick Francis or somebody else, right?
True. And, Scott County, there may be somebody come out of there too. I don't know who that may be, but there might be someone there too.
Well, Representative Jamie Berger, thank you so much for coming in, talking about the race and session, and good luck the next few days.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate you having me on.
We'll be back tomorrow. Check back Facebook, Twitter this afternoon for what time and who we're going to have. We'll be back tomorrow with a midweek update. Probably have a little more legislation to talk about than we did today. Tomorrow on This Week in Missouri.